Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways, Coyote in the Highlands. Gonna have some sun dappling on my face today, and you can see the outdoor kitchen behind me. There's a grill, there's a flagstone underneath me now. I'm working on the flagstone patio. It's all really cool. Gotta get a coat of stucco on the kitchen when I get to that point, but one step at a time. The exterior finish is not top on my priority list. I've got some shade up, but not actual roofing. I have a couple months before monsoon season, so there's that. I need to work on that. The space where I'm sitting is going to be a lean-to roof extension. There's going to be one on each of the four sides, so that will actually help a lot with the airflow and everything. I hope you can hear this because there is a morning breeze picking up. I want to talk a little bit more about... So I'm polarized. I have chosen a side as far as it goes on the game of humanity, which seems to be the central game, seems to be increasing humanity, which means an increase in liberty, freedom, opportunity to experience yourself, explore yourself, fundamental well-being, movement, travel. Being able to move is a very big key part to that. Not being enslaved to a specific spot. That's actually one of the things where I don't think home ownership is necessarily a model for everybody. I think Gibson's references to economic democracy in some of his novels actually makes sense, something to flesh out there. Whatever it is, with free associative groups, and increased liberty and all of that, that's a side. And then there's the side of control, which does not want to increase humanity's well-being, spiritual access, independent drivers. They want control of you, control of your brain, control of your soul when it comes down to it. A lot of religion is based on control of your soul in whatever cosmology they have, So all of that together is kind of like there's two sides there. So sometimes I have to bring up things that are kind of just political without being partisan. For example, in the United States, the current tax code this year, the new one for 2022, includes the idea that 1099-Ks have to be sent out for any sales over $600. That's even over the course of the year. So if you sell some stuff on eBay, which is basically an online garage sale for a lot of people, even if you're losing money because it's just old stuff or used stuff, or you wanted to buy a new smartwatch so you're selling your old one, stuff like that, garage sale stuff that's not taking up space, but it's going to do better at a online sale than a garage sale. If you sell $600 of stuff on eBay, you have to get a tax form. You have to deal with the tax paperwork. You have to deal with the extra tax forms and all of the complication, which means you have to pay a professional services tax for someone to help you prepare your taxes. If not an actual CPA, then something like TurboTax, where it's still $100 to use it. All of this because you sold a couple things. The previous limit was $20,000 or 200 items in a given month for eBay specifically. This 1099-K thing applies to everywhere. eBay, Etsy. Theoretically, it applies to your garage sales and everything else. You're supposed to have this 1099-K. I don't think it's hit the swap meets yet. But I do expect that it's going to hit the craft shows and swap meets and everything at some point as well. And it's just, there's no particular thing about that helps you as an individual. It doesn't increase the tax revenue enough to matter. It doesn't make the billionaires pay their fair share, which is just such an abominable idea. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything except hurt you and hurt independent action. So, this is not a partisan bill. This is something that everyone just passed because, of course, they passed it because it's the IRS. More taxes, more paperwork. It's a bad idea. It's bad for humans in general, that kind of thing. Tax reform is one of the areas where a lot of people think that there's a lot of freedom, individual freedom and benefit to be had by simplification, you know. And I don't think that the revenue stream itself is as big a deal as the control mechanism for a lot of the people, you know. So there's that. There's all these little things, you know. It's not that I think that all regulation is bad. I wish we had country and region, state, for example, of origin on all of our food, especially the meats. You know, that got rid of we got rid of that because the World Trade Organization didn't think it was a great idea several years ago. But that's, you know, that takes away from your ability to make your choices. So that's bad. You know, there's a bunch of this stuff. And it's hard to make a law that increases freedom. That's one of the big things here, is that to be on the freedom side, it's hard to make a law that increases freedom. That's, you know, pretty much the only way to do that at this point is to make a law that restricts bureaucratic interference. Well, really great idea. We should push for a lot of those laws that say, hey, government agencies can't do this, government agencies can't do that. That would be fantastic. You know, the IRS cannot go looking for income. How about that? Something. This one bugs me a little bit, the $600 1099K thing, because it causes people to have to get involved in an opaque tax system, and it is a serious inhibition on just freely engaging in some basic commerce. You know, I have to record that I spent $200 on this fancy wheelbarrow that I sold for $75 later, because I have to, the $75 is somehow reported because the transaction went through whatever, Venmo or Cash App or something. Something like that, you know. Or I paid for, you know, $5,000 for this truck, and I'm selling it for $3,000, and some of the money's coming through Cash App, and it's $1,000. Well, that's going to get reported to the IRS because it's a transaction more than $600. Stuff like that. It's, what is the real point, and is there a better way to do that? If the point is to increase tax revenue by taxing people who are on the lower end of the economic scale, great. The best way to do that is probably a flat tax, you know, and flat tax, no deductions. That would probably do it. You know, this nickel and dime thing, it's not a good way to promote the quality of life of your citizenry. And I think that promoting the quality of life of the citizenry is something that is lost on a lot of politicians. You know, and there's places where you can get deep into weird stuff. Like, do these groups actually conspire to reduce your freedom? And I think on some levels they do. It's quite open that that many of them have a notion. They'll talk to each other about how they are the elites and they are intended to rule the world, and everyone else needs to get in line and all of that stuff. So there's that. You know, that's out in the open. There's the different sets of rules for you and versus me, like that reporter who decided to get involved with a police agency and make an illegal gun and do transfers for out-of-state people because the reporter was a resident of New York, not Pennsylvania, and like everything about that broke state and federal laws. There were several of them, you know. But it's a get out of jail free card because I'm a journalist. You shouldn't ruin my career for trying to do a story, even if I broke federal laws on tape. Well, law for who? Who is the law for? And now I know that in human societies, in any human grouping, there's going to be some degree of elite, some power centralization. And that's fine, you know, that's going to happen, and that's great if it's used wisely. But what we're seeing right now is not a wise use of power. or a generous use of power. In fact, it looks like those in power are getting really worried and reacting very badly. So, this is not really supposed to be a downer video. I'm just trying to explain some of the things that are in the field. It's glorious to have the opportunity to contest against, to fight these things, because that's a wonderful game for a human to engage in. It's a very positive game for a human to engage in. And I don't know where the answers are, what the answers are going to be. I don't know where privacy is going to go. At this point, we know police are using the experimental self-driving cars for investigations. They have full access to everything those cameras see, all times searchable. So the mosaic theory of the Fourth Amendment, how much surveillance becomes an intrusion of your privacy, there's a big question around that. Stuff like that, the cameras everywhere, the Ring cameras, there's facial recognition cameras. The CDC was buying cell phone records. Like, privacy is a big issue. We need to work on that. We know that the data isn't going to go away, so we need to work on a way to make this positive for humans. Maybe it would be useful for you to have access to your own data and an AI. In fact, maybe if that recording is going to happen, you have to be guaranteed access to your data, wherever it's collected, and some means of processing and helping yourself in your life with that. That would be useful, since it's going to happen anyway. How do you restrict government uses? Well, on a certain level, you can't. There's always going to be a shadow government that is not accountable to you. So there's you have to either have a social, patriotic duty kind of trust system that the people are raised who go into that field are part of a mindset, or you have to minimize the shadow and make as much of everything as possible transparent, because you can't put the genie back in the bottle. We need to think about ways to make this positive. So that's what I've got for right now. This stuff is, pay attention to the little things that are designed to keep the little people in check, in control, on a path, and resist those things. Don't be distracted by the big stories, because the big stories are always inaccurate. Everything about them is inaccurate. I could reference some of the recent debates that are going on in May of 2022, but I don't want to pick a side on any of them. I will just note that there's been a lot of stuff that people didn't know before that's come out, like what the laws are in other countries, what people actually support, who's driving resistance to some of this stuff. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to the actual little details of that. But the big topic, the big outrage, is a program and is false. In every case, it is false. It is a big lie. Even if the events are real, they're not portrayed to you accurately. The information surrounding them is not portrayed accurately. That's a big deal. And once again, the little things. Pay attention to the little things. Write your congressmen, insofar as it matters, your state representatives, insofar as that matters. Go ahead and write them. It's a good practice for you. It gets you to articulate what your problems are and then send it in. It does help. I have seen it work, so there's that. Okay? Stay sideways and stay free.